How do we feel about Xanathar's crafting rules, and how do we handle crafting in our game?
I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't even know Xanathar's had crafting rules.
I mean, I know that Xanathar's has crafting rules.
I guess they're with the tool proficiencies? Pruitt's going to check out. I think, let's answer the second part of this question first. I used to have a player in Pruitt's home group who every character wanted to craft things. Always wanted to craft. This is back when we were playing 3rd edition. I used the Black Company campaign setting, crafting rules. It was elaborate for 3rd edition. You had to calculate the gold piece value, then convert it to silver, and then that was used as a divisor. It was a bunch of math that you had to do, a divisor.
Math.
Divider. I hand wave it now. It is not something that I've ever found needs a lot of complicated rules. I'd probably do it now. It would require like 3 or 4 fantastical ingredients from, that are needed to create something. So if it's like a magic sword, it's got to be a very precious metal or some kind. Perhaps some sort of gemstones or channel to hold the magical energy. Perhaps some sort of, magical substance to quench the blade in. And things like that, that I would require. But I hardly ever have anyone that asks to craft now, and I probably would just hand wave it if it were me, because I've never personally found it adds much to the game to have elaborate crafting rules. What do we got?
I mean, there's crafting magic items, whether or not you have kits that can deal with that. It's got rules for how many ingredients you need.
Okay.
For crafting time and costs, depending on how, And then there's a table for complications, which I find that interesting.
Sure. Again, interesting complications. I
mean, it's just a few little charts to roll to just come up with,
It's like a lot of things for 5th edition. They offer you some guidelines and suggestions, but there's no hard and fast rule. And because the guidelines and suggestions are very broad, people that want very, specific kind of procedure for play are not going to get that.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to make your own judgment call.
But I'm with you on that. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. Oh, it's a magic sword. Well, a sword might take a couple of weeks to make and enchant. But oh, I want it to light up with whatever. Oh, you got to capture some starlight on the first new moon, and like come up with something fun. Like make an adventure out of at least one item, like one ingredient. Make an adventure out of that. Like you got to go get this thing, and you got to get these things on the way, and then have a fun little skill challenge for the actual item. I mean, if you're wanting to, because I assume these are people that want to give a little bit more and make it a little bit more special for their players. You know what I mean? As opposed to just like, oh, I find this, or oh, I go buy that item.
I don't know. I think it's like I said, my experience with it is that I've had one player who was really into it and wanted, always wanted to make it a feature of the game. But at the same time, he never seemed to enjoy interacting with the rules of it. Most of the time when I see it, it seems like something that dungeon masters want, but not necessarily players. Like players want to have their character with a created item because it's important for their character, not necessarily to interface with a bunch of rules.
Yeah,
that's my experience of it. So I'd create like a little mini adventure out of it, come up with some fantastic ingredients that they need, and make it kind of a challenge that way. That's how I do it. So
awesome. Now, spoilers. I wanted to clap and do that because I have an idea that I'm going to do for the cool sword. I'm going to have a phase dragon, or like an ethereal dragon attack at some point, because this town on Rontame has been fucking with extra dimensional space, and they're using the ethereal plane, right? And so basically, he's going to finally find out that they've been getting into his domain in the plane, in the ethereal plane. And so basically, an ethereal dragon. And I'm trying to work this out, because I'm thinking it's ethereal breath. It breathes on people, and it shunts them into the ethereal plane.
Have you looked at the Void Dragon from Tome of Beasts?
Well, the Void Dragon, I believe, is also in Spelljammer.
Well, there's the Void Dragon that's in Tome of Beasts is like it has its own thing. I forget what it does though, but it lives in one of the transitive planes.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
But I want to have that dragon attack, and the thing is like I've already was thinking, because I was thinking about like a cool idea for Dakul's sword, because I want to make his sword that he bought that he really likes. I want to make it magical. through a process, not necessarily like he created it, but something happens. And I'm just like, because the idea I had for him, because he's like, yeah, I want to do something with like, or I think it'd be cool to have something of like being able to have a better to move around quicker, like whether it's teleporting or misty steps, stuff like that. And I'm thinking that an ethereal dragon that attacks, you block a breath weapon or you attack it in its plane or something, and eventually like the blade phases in and kind of takes on some of those properties, and it begins to.
That's another way to do it. Yeah, you can have it where it's like something becomes magical through the actions of the party. Yeah.
You know, because now he's about to. I think he has evasion, so like it's a thing where make a deck save. You fucking block this breath weapon with your fucking sword.
Right.
You know, and so I think then eventually the blade will start to look like it's flickering in and out of existence. Sometimes he pulls it and it looks like it's not there, and you cut yourself and it is there.
Like it is there. You see the after image of it.
But then he starts. Well, guess what? Once per short rest, you can misty step.
Yeah.
And eventually, like once a day, you can teleport.
Yeah.
And then like once a week, I think eventually once a week you can plane shift, as basically this sword can cut into the fabric of reality and step through it. Like that's how sharp this sword is. Yeah. And that's why you can see through it.
Hockey sticks from Dogma.
Yeah.
That's always what I think of those hockey sticks.
Yeah. But same thing. But something like along those lines is kind of an idea I had cooked up. So that's the end of that spoiler.
Sweet.